All right. Good morning, everybody. That was weird. Once I clicked the go live button, it took forever. And now it's not letting me change. Good morning, Danny. All right. Back end here is not looking like it wants to cooperate. I'm going to try. There it is. Okay. So I don't know what just happened there, but the old algorithmics was trying to shortchange us this morning, and I think I just fixed the problem. But y'all let me know. Let me double check the audio here. Live is hard mode. We fell a little behind there. Let's go switch from the battery to the wire. See if that doesn't improve the show this morning. All right. So, welcome to 2025. I know yesterday was the first day of 2025, but then we had a whole day of big news, mostly terror attacks. So welcome to 2025. And we got flooded first thing with terror attacks, which is a solid reminder that in theory, ostensibly, even though nobody's seen the damn man in a coon's age, Joe Biden is still your president. Yeah, I know. I know. It's hard to believe. It's hard to cognize, but sure enough, there he is.
We'll keep you fully contemporaneously informed. Thank you.
This is old Joe yesterday. That audio is really low. But that's Joe walking off without taking any questions about the terror attacks. Just whatever. Whatever. Meh. Hey, I see GCM joined us this morning too, and there's Be Controversial. Good morning, gentlemen. Good to see you. Good to see you. So, what happened? There was a love truck incident in New Orleans yesterday, and there was a Tesla love truck incident in Nevada. Now, I'm not as interested this morning in covering the details of the two incidents themselves so much as covering the coverage and the reaction of the incidents. So first, let's talk about what happened right after the truck did all the killing in New Orleans yesterday, night before last. Let's talk about what happened. The FBI coming out and making their comments about it. So they send out Agent Nosering here to, oh my God.
Confirming if it's a viable device. Patrick said, we'll be taking over the investigative lead for this event. This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices that was found. And we are working on confirming if it's a viable device or not.
Okay, she said this is not a terrorist event right now. Because I saw the ISIS flag that they pulled out of that car. Y'all saw the ISIS flag that they pulled out of there. And then all of a sudden, the ISIS flag disappeared. I want to know which FBI agent ran over to that car and grabbed the ISIS flag and rolled it up to hide it. Right? I want to know how that happened. So the audio from this is real low on my end. So let me know if y'all are getting good audio out of this. I may have to find another clip.
Patrick said, we're asking everyone to stay away from Bourbon Street, specifically from Canal Street to St. Anne.
Pacifically? Oh, God. We're asking everyone to stay away from Bourbon Street, specifically from Canal Street. Oh, my God. Y'all couldn't bring me a native English speaker to deliver these remarks? Oh, that's right. Agent Nose Ring. Diversity. English is her only language. And I mean, but specifically, Agent Nosering wants us to know that this was not a terror attack with a love truck, which is like ISIS 101 and an ISIS flag. Okay, so we've got some intel that's telling us now if the attacker has been correctly identified, perhaps he's not an illegal alien, an illegal immigrant. Let's see. Y'all remember the Fort Hood shooter? He was clearly an Islamic terror convert who was an American citizen, an Army veteran. It pains me to admit it, but the fact is this: there is a certain segment in our military that, surprise, surprise, gets exposed to the enemy and becomes sympathetic to the enemy, right? Like, okay, so obviously I never became an Islamic terrorist, but you know what? While I was in Afghanistan, while I was conducting active war against these enemies, believe it or not, your local allies are also Muslims. They just happen to not be Muslim terrorists. And guess what? You break bread with them. You have meals with them, right? And doing intel operations like I was doing, you sit down and break bread and have meals and conduct meetings and do business and make deals with people who are in charge of terrorist groups. Now, those boys will serve up a fried chicken that'll make you cry, right? And the pickled okra, chef's kiss. Now that doesn't mean that every soldier that has contact with the enemy is going to become the enemy. Clearly not. I mean, I decreased their excess population rather substantially myself. In fact, I unalived some of the guys that I had dinner with while I was over there as part of the job. But my point is, right, that let's assume that the FBI is correct now that they're telling us that it was this American who converted and changed his name and is an Army veteran. Let's just assume for a moment that we can trust the FBI and this isn't also a lie. That is not an indictment of the military. It is, however, the fact that we had at least 2 terror incidents in the United States for New Year's, right? Because we got the Tesla truck in front of Trump Tower as well, which, that there's a whole other thing going on there that needs to be discussed. But I need to remind you, despite all of the effort put forward by the mainstream press, the government cheese media, for the past 6 months to a year, despite all they've done to try and gaslight you on this fact, Joe Biden is, at least ostensibly, technically, still the president. We know this because he's doing all kind of stuff like 42,000 pardons, including a bunch of child abusers, we'll say, to avoid using the P word, and murderers and sociopaths, bank robbers. Joe Biden is, he's doing as much as he can to prevent America from surviving him. Right? Now, there's a lot of conversation around whether or not this guy came across the border. Believe it or not, there is a legal way to cross the border. There are ports of entry. And believe it or not, you can be an American citizen who has left the United States for whatever reason and come back to the United States as a traitor and choose to take an illegal path to entry for whatever reason. Right? Now, if you are an American who's been converted and are planning to commit some treason, excuse me, you're planning to commit some treason, and you're bringing in materiel like an improvised explosive device to conduct that act of treason, then maybe you're not going to try and bring your pipe bombs in a backpack through the port of entry. You just might come across the border. So don't let yourself get twisted up when they conflate illegal entry with illegal immigration. Those are in fact two different things. This is one of the things that the lefties love to do, is to use words almost, but very specifically not correctly. Right? It's kind of like going to the replicator and placing an order in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where you're then served up after you've placed your order something that is almost, but not quite, entirely unlike a cup of tea. So when they use the language this way, right? We've seen it with the illegal immigration debate for 4 years. They keep saying that Donald Trump wants to get rid of all the migrants, all the immigrants, and then the rebuttal is, that's right, he wants to get rid of all the immigrants. And the MAGA that's not paying close attention to the language abuse, so hell yeah, we need to get rid of all the immigrants. Doesn't notice that, they left a word out, because illegal immigrant is an important part of that factor. Criminal alien, hostile foreign invader, that's the key. But they say all immigrants because they want you to think that Donald Trump says he wants to mass deport all immigrants is the same as saying we want to round up everybody who's ever gotten American citizenship, been naturalized, and become a proud American. And I'm here to tell you, brother, Donald Trump doesn't want to get rid of Roger Vega. Donald Trump doesn't want to get rid of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Right? Donald Trump doesn't want to get rid of Elon Musk. Believe it or not, there's such a thing as an American citizen that came to America, not a citizen, through a legal path and pursued citizenship and achieved it. And that is not the category of person that we're talking about when we start talking about mass deportation. That is not the category of person that we're talking about when we start talking about the number of terrorists, known terrorists, who were apprehended by ICE and then released into the country. Pitt Danny says one report said the truck came from across the border. I don't know about that yet, and that's another reason that I'm talking more about the coverage, the immediate coverage, than the actual facts of the case, because right now, and the two are of a piece, right? A big part of why I want to talk about the coverage is we don't know the facts precisely because there's so much aggressive psyop activity by our government and our government-controlled media that it's difficult to know what the actual facts are. So what the facts are that we're pretty sure of is a dozen or so people were killed, were murdered in New Orleans, and conveniently the barricades that are there on Bourbon Street to prevent something like that from happening were not employed on, let's see, exactly the kind of day that they were installed to be employed for. So that's a little alarming. When the FBI and the Secret Service are unable to even notice, let alone identify, and we still know next to nothing about the shooter that put a round into Donald Trump's right ear. They're able to, they can't tell us anything about that guy. They can't tell us anything about what happened in New Orleans. But you better believe that grandma who bought herself an American teddy bear at the gift shop on January 6th is sitting in jail right now, wishing she could get charged so that she can have a day in court. Right? So there's your reminder. Joe Biden is still your president. And as long as that continues to be the truth, as long as that continues to be the case, truth and fact are a little sketchy here, because the idea that Joe Biden has actually been in charge of anything is laughable. But he does get to bear the brunt of the blame because, well, the buck is supposed to stop with him. Now, what else is going on? New York City. Let's take a look at this. 12 hours after the, we're looking at 12 hours after the Las Vegas and New Orleans attacks. This is downtown New York City. What are you seeing there? You're seeing a large mass of people who are protesting, campaigning. You see the flags, right? You see the flags in the crowd there. These are anti-Israel, pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist protesters, advocates, agents provocateur who are out stumping for a global intifada. They're calling for global intifada, right? A massive crowd of Hamas supporters has taken over downtown Manhattan, New York City, calling for global intifada. 12 hours of the tragedy in New Orleans, Las Vegas, and these people are doing this. They have no shame. The enemy is already here. That's a American Papa Bear. He's a pretty good follow. Go check him out if you're on X. American Papa Bear's a pretty good follow. Let's go ahead and give that guy a like and a share. There you go. There you go, Papa Bear. Give you a little boost. And I mean the enemy is already here. There are people in the United States. I'm a free speech guy. I'm nearly a free speech absolutist. And I say nearly because I won't go too far down that rabbit hole, but obviously some censorship is good. I would not censor the speech of people like this because I want to know who you are. I want our law enforcement agencies to know who you are. Eventually when we have law enforcement agencies again. Do y'all remember when we used to have law enforcement agencies? There used to be such a thing as a law enforcement officer. And they were good guys, right? You could trust your kids with them. I know it was a long time ago. But I mean, where's my Andy Griffiths, right? Aaron Olson says the Sean Ryan show has been trying to warn us about this. I'm not familiar with Sean Ryan, Aaron. I'll have to go check out some of that. And I got to say, I think right now maybe I'm spinning up on the end of what I had to say about this topic. Just all I can say is we can't get Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, and Pete Hegseth in place soon enough. The fact that attacks like this can occur in the United States, okay, here we go. One of the things that I've noticed on X today, we can't get those guys in place to absolutely gut the law enforcement apparatus of the United States. The thing that we currently refer to as the law enforcement apparatus is so corrupt and so infiltrated and so captured that it is an active threat to the safety and liberty of the American people. And I hate to say this, but the fact is there just aren't good cops out there. And let me caveat that. Let me clarify what I mean when I say that. We see, Agent Nose Ring, and we see all the police officers that, with a smile on their face, just happily went and arrested people for trying to run their businesses during COVID. They just jumped on and enforced the law. Oh, and then I'm just following orders. I'm not sure how it works for police officers and the FBI, but when I raised my hand and swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution and made myself voluntarily subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice, one of the strictures of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, it's not just that we try and teach our soldiers that you need to understand what is a lawful order and what is not a lawful order, and more specifically, what is an unlawful order. Because, my friend, Nuremberg taught us something, and the Uniform Code of Military Justice reflects this. It is also a crime to follow an order to commit crime. It is unlawful. It is a violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice as a uniformed service member to follow an unlawful order. It's not just that you have an active defense at your court-martial when the bad officer puts you in on a Article 15 because you refuse to gun down a trench full of random women who weren't a threat. It's that you get to go in there and say, I have an active defense. This officer gave me a direct order to commit murder, and I refused to do it. That is an active defense. If you go in there and your defense on the charge of murder, you follow the order, you commit the murder. You gun down a bunch of innocent women and children without any reason at all because you were ordered to do so. And you show up and your defense is, Your Honor, I was just following orders. That doesn't play. That doesn't work. That is not a defense. Following the order does not excuse you for committing the crime. I would love to see. I need to do a little research on that and see how that's reflected in the law for law enforcement officers. The qualified immunity's got to go, and just need to gut the whole thing, right? And okay, I got a little bit off of a point that I was starting to make earlier. There are enough bad cops out there that we can reasonably say that there are no good cops, because the good cops, in order to be good cops, they need to be getting rid of bad cops, right? So as long as there exists a bad cop in your police precinct, like where I live, there's a solid chance that all the cops in my local law enforcement apparatus are great guys, because there's only 4 of them. There's a sheriff, 2 sheriff's deputies, and 1 school resource officer. 4 country boys in one sheriff's department that is the entire law enforcement apparatus for our county of less than 3,000 people. Okay, solid chance that none of the 4 of them are corrupt, and an even more solid chance that if one of them was, the other 3 would be like, oh, hold up a second there, Jethro. We don't play with that shit around here, right? So your small community police forces, you very well may have your Andy Griffiths, right? You very well may have your cop that the kids can walk up to, and you can trust that the cop is going to do the right thing. Hey, we were shopping at the market, and I got separated from mommy and daddy. Officer, can you run me home? Oh yeah, you're Lowry's boy. I know right where that is. I'll run you down the street and drop you off at the house. We'll wait in the yard and eat an ice cream and wait for Daddy to get home. I'll call him. I'll call him on his cell phone and ask him where he is. We can meet him at the house, whatever, right? But that's not what you have in your blue cancer cities. It's not. And it's not possible to have it that way in your blue cancer city, right? The local cop, they may be able to know half the people around them by name, but if you're a New York City police officer, you cannot possibly recognize 10% of the people and know their names. You just can't. It's not an option, let alone half of them, right? So there's a lot that needs to be fixed. And 18 days to go, guys. 18 days until we get the country back. And I'm going to say this over and over again, even after the inauguration. We didn't win the country back yet. We haven't taken the country back yet. We won an election. That doesn't even on its own guarantee that the work is going to get done. So it's time to lay on the pressure. We need to be reminding the GOP, the Congress, the Senate, we need to be reminding everybody who is vulnerable to elections and primaries, listen, you've got one fucking job. And that is to get the MAGA agenda through, not the Trump agenda. We love the Donald, but the MAGA agenda. Right? And that's something we're going to end up talking about a lot on this show for the next 4 years, is the difference between the Trump agenda and the MAGA agenda, right? One of the glaring things where we're going to see a little conflict there is Trump is not as hardcore pro 2A as I'd like him to be. And I tend to attribute his mistakes on 2A to a naivety, right? The bump stock ban thing, right? Back then, Donald Trump thought that there was such a thing as an honest Democrat, and that you could do honest, good faith business with the Democrat. And he, it bit him in the ass trying to trust some Democrats. And he was like, well, we'll do a little, we'll do a little compromise here. Everybody gets a little bit of something they want. And then of course they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So we got to keep the pressure on. And like Elon and Vivek talking about H-1B visas and sounding like they're going to take those too far. And, we just covered this the other day. That's somewhere that, okay, no. Right? You've got your Trump agenda, and then there's the MAGA agenda. And sometimes we're going to have to shut you the fuck down. But holy Christ, if the rhinos in the House and the Senate, if the rhinos in the House and the Senate are not full speed ahead to get us the confirmations we want, etc., then it's time to primary them out. It's time to fire every single one of them. If you vote wrong on any bit of the MAGA agenda, you got to go. You have got to go. Right? I'm half tempted. I know there's some mud in the water on this one with Matt Gaetz, but I'm half tempted to say that just Matt Gaetz kind of being forced out and forced to walk away from his appointment. That's almost enough for my taste to primary the entire GOP. Even the ones that got it right because they didn't fight hard enough. See, and that's another piece of this that we're going to have to talk about more and more. It's not enough to be right. You have to be right and be a fighter. You have to be right and you have to pursue doing what is right, or you got to go. You can be ideologically correct as much as you want, But if you're weak and you don't do what is right, knowing you should run into the burning building and saving the baby is not the same as running back out of the burning building with the baby. You have to get the job done. So thanks for watching this morning, guys. I'm going to go ahead and put a pen in it right there. Y'all be safe out there. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.